Listener, what's happening? Spring is in the air, and I say, bring on summer. A lot of our guests have summer events coming up. We've had such a variety of guests. I promise there will be something you'd love to go to this summer hosted by one of our previous guests. Check out our guest page on the website. Click on our previous guest photos and visit their websites to see what's coming soon. That's www.themoreyouKnow.com. Who knows what you may find? This is The More You NoCo, a podcast bringing you wonderful ideas and conversations with the people of Northern Colorado. I am your host, Ivan Wayne. Who will it be next? Let's go. Adolescence is a difficult and very memorable time of life for many reasons. Part of being a teenager includes the chaos of identity, self-confidence, and the feelings of being ourselves. Whether referencing psychology studies or literature from another field, we see discrepancies in how this process unfolds between young men and women. Jamie Carden-Obrien of the Free to Be movement joins us for a delightful discussion about what issues are important to work through for young girls and how informal community support could make lives better for all of us. Without further ado, let's jump in. I guess we can start with what has been on your mind lately, or what things are you walking through these days with the Free to Be movement?
Yeah, well, I just started Free to Be. So our first event was March 2nd. Going into our second event, which is next week. It's on Tuesday. Really what's on my mind or what I'm walking through is getting this started, getting this movement going, getting it in front of the people that need to see it so that we get girls coming.
And who are those people?
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out, and trying to get in front of the actual girls. So Free to Be movement is for adolescent girls. It's a self-love, self-acceptance movement, event-based, getting in front of the girls, and then also getting parents on board, take their girls to these events or drop their girls off, trying to get in front of the right people so that we can spread the word and people can find out about it.
And so what is Free to Be trying to do for young women?
In adult language, it's personal development. And so really helping girls accept themselves, get to know themselves, be genuine in who they are. The underlying hope being that, or belief being, when a human being, male or female, is truly comfortable with who they are, truly accepts who they are, is okay with the choices that they make, or understands that opportunities that they have for themselves, they're working on those, or it's easier to accept other people where they are. There's not that tendency to get defensive or this need to defend because this person is different than I am. It's I am choosing this for my life, and this is what's good for me, and I can acknowledge and see that what you are choosing for your life and what you're doing is good for you, and there's no reason that it has to be a competition. And there seems to be a lot of competition between young girls and women, and it looks different than it does for boys and men, in that boys and men can be competitive if it's younger, in sports or academics, and later on in life in their careers, and still hang out after the game, or, go get a beer after work. And with women and girls, it tends to be if in competition with each other, if they feel like they're in competition with each other, then there's no room for acceptance, or there's no room for friendship. It's me versus you.
Yeah, when we talk about gender difference in human sexuality from the psychology side, we'll talk about two different types of aggression. So physical aggression we see is dominated by males, who the act of aggression is physical, it's immediate, it's right now, it's face to face, And a lot of times people can make up a lot faster as well and come to amends and rebuild that bridge. With women, we see it's more relational aggression. So it's at the social level, which could occur in person. It could occur behind people's back. It could also occur socially now. Yeah. And those things have a more lasting effect, just like you were touching on.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Do you feel like self-confidence and self-esteem is at the heart of a lot of what you're trying to work with?
I do, because I believe when we feel insecure about something in ourselves, if we see somebody else that we believe is doing what we want to do, or they are better than I am at this thing, it's, when I say easier, obviously not easier because of the consequences, but I think what our brains tend to do, or it shifts it into, I don't like that person, or it has to be about turning that person who we feel is better than us into some sort of villain, for lack of a better word, or somebody that I can't like, because when I see them, I feel more insecure about myself. And it's hard to look within ourselves, or sometimes it's hard to even recognize that that's what's going on, that they represent something that I don't feel good about myself. And so if we can help girls really have that internal focus, and how do they be genuine? How do they look at what they really like about themselves? If there are things that they don't like, or they see that they have opportunities, how do we help them work on those in a healthy and productive way, and accept who they are, and that's going to look, again, different than this person over here. That's okay that this person isn't the same, or that maybe this person is doing the same thing that I am and they're better. That doesn't mean that we can't collaborate, or I can't learn something from this person, or that we can't be friends. With that also, I think it's okay if we don't like other people, or if other people don't like us. We don't have to turn that into mean, hateful, saying bad things, gossip so big in middle school and high school. It's okay if we don't click.
Right.
And that can just be it.
That's hard.
Yeah. Yes,
really
it is hard. And I think that when people can get to that point or recognize that, it makes it so much easier to just go on with what they're needing to do for their lives. We don't need to spend emotional energy on what this person is or isn't doing. If they're doing their thing, great. I can still go do my thing, and we don't have to hang out. We don't have to be friends, but we also don't have to be nasty to each other.
And that's difficult, because if this lashing out that I have, the judgment of others, is actually stemming from how I feel about myself, but I don't realize it.
Yeah.
This kind of code switching occurs at the subconscious level. That is a problem that would be almost impossible for you to see in the mirror.
Absolutely.
Because you don't realize where it's coming from.
Right.
And I mean, are you trying to help young women see this? And how do we get that conversation started?
Yeah, I am really upfront with people about that, as far as being more aware and paying attention to what's going on when they are feeling something negative or hateful towards another person. I actually did some focus groups before doing the first event, or planning for the first event, with high school girls, and brought up this very thing, and was really impressed with their honesty and what I saw as being vulnerable, or being genuine, and saying, yeah, that happens all the time, or them thinking about that and saying, yes, sports was a big one, academics was a big one, that this person I see them as better than me. And I just don't like them. I don't know who they are. I've maybe never talked to them, or truly, if I'm honest with myself, they seem like a nice person. But because I see them as better than me, and that makes me feel bad, I don't like them. I said it mostly came up with sports and academics, but the girls were real honest also of, I think this girl's prettier than me, or she is prettier than me, whatever it is, that then I don't like her. I don't even give her a chance.
Do you try mindfulness with this at all? Raising people's awareness? People tend to think, and I joke about it sometimes, about mindfulness and meditation as you're going to put this square on your tongue, you're going to do a 10-mile hike up to the top of a mountain with someone who doesn't speak the same language as you, and you're going to have a life moving experience.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not the way that's the way it's categorized, but that's not the way it has to be.
Right.
Maybe it's just 30 seconds of you peeling the curtain back and seeing your thoughts as they come across your mind. And
right.
do you feel like you've tried any mindfulness with girls?
So I'm a therapist, a child and family therapist, and a majority of my clients are under 18, and I see quite a few adolescents. And mindfulness is huge in my therapy practice as far as when I'm working one-on-one, helping them to be more present, be more aware of exactly that. I can feel this reaction in my body that I'm having. And if I can slow myself down and think about what just happened, what am I thinking? What am I feeling? That kind of thing. It definitely helps with what I'm talking about of not making that rash, reactive decision, whatever that is. If that's saying something about this person, if that's deciding even, I just don't like that person. It's okay, what's going on with me that's making me feel this way, and really dissecting that so that they can hopefully come to a different conclusion, or a more productive, more healthy conclusion. Because not only for that person who could be perfectly lovely, who people don't like because they're smart or they're good at sports or they're pretty, but also for the actual individual that's not healthy. That's not good for them to be carrying around so much resentment or hate or negativity.
I am a big fan of Sam Harris and his meditation app, and thinking about anger was powerful for me. When the next time I got angry, I sat there and realized it was like a new person had walked into the room, and this person was adjusting every thought that I had come in that would feed the anger. And so it was like reminding ourselves that person is there, anger's there, and we need to either wait until that person leaves the room or actively realize, oh, this emotion doesn't have to flavor all of my conscious thoughts. And once you see it as just a point in time, like this, a lens or like a flexible bubble that you can move out of the way, it helps get over anger and anxiety quicker so that we can kind of like address what actually needs to be done and not do it in a rash way. And I think mindfulness has been huge for me. Yeah,
I love it. It's wonderful.
And so you've been a therapist for 24 years? Or?
Well, in the field for 24 years. So I've been in private practice since 2009. So actually next month, April, it'll be 10 years that I've been doing private practice. And before that, I was with, it's now Summit Stone. When I worked there, it was Larimer Center for Mental Health. And then it turned to Touchstone. But the Community Mental Health Center, I was there a little over 4 years. Before getting my master's and my license, I did a lot of advocacy work. So I worked with Crossroads Safe House in Fort Collins, the domestic violence shelter. I was there when I very first moved to Fort Collins. And I was getting a second bachelor's at CSU. I did volunteer work and advocacy work there. And then I'm from Kansas and I love it. I grew up in Kansas City, but I went to the University of Kansas.
Kansas City.
Yes, Kansas City is awesome. So I guess I'm from Kansas City, but I went to the University of Kansas for my first bachelor's in Lawrence.
Rock Chalk.
Yes, forever a Jayhawk. And I volunteered for 4 years it was a crisis 24-hour phone or walk-in suicide center. And so that's actually what got me into doing what I do now. It was one of those random moments. I was doing laundry at the laundromat and saw a flyer that they needed volunteers. It was called Headquarters. And I thought it looked interesting. I was a freshman and I hadn't at that time declared any kind of major, and went through their training process, which, after the fact, it was really intense. And after the fact, when I was getting my master's and going through my training, I realized and appreciated what that training was that I went through for Headquarters, that they really set me up for what I'm doing. And I ended up being there for 4 years. I actually stopped just because I moved here. So
I think maybe some listeners join me in this, but when I think of suicidal ideation and crisis response, I think of a phone call. But this was a walk-in physical place.
Yeah, so they could walk in and it was 24 hours. I did overnights because I worked full-time and was going to school full-time. So I did overnights. Rarely got walk-ins. It was mostly phone calls during that time, but there were a few times that people came in. During the day, they had lots of people that would walk in. It's a really great, I hope it's still there. It was such a great organization.
Wow, higher walk-ins during the day. That surprises me.
Yeah.
And what was your experience like there?
It was really cool. It was, I was 19. I was just a kid and not really knowing what I was getting into. And I think it was just my first real experience with just how fragile the human mind and just our emotions can be. And I think having that responsibility to, people call in and obviously feeling at the end of their rope and just needing somebody to talk to and being able to answer the phone and be that person. I don't even know how to describe it. It was an incredible experience and I feel lucky to have it. And it propelled me into what I'm doing now. So yeah, just the experience was immeasurable. Yeah.
I was going to ask you if you thought that being a therapist for majority adolescent clients was something you found or it found you?
It
because
found me, yeah.
The joke is that high school teachers want to teach elementary. Elementary school teachers want to teach high school. Nobody wants middle school.
Right.
But you've selected this age group.
Yes. Yeah.
And how did that come to be?
I think once I decided that this was what I wanted to do, I knew that I wanted to work with kids. And when I say kids, I mean the younger kids, under 18. So when I moved out to Colorado, I actually did do a second bachelor's in human development and family studies at CSU. And then my master's, I did the couple and family track just because I wanted that experience with younger kids, and I took play therapy and got my training in that. I'm not sure what made me decide that. And then going into my practice, and I have a playroom for the younger kids, and then my office, it was, first few clients that were adolescents. I love them. Somebody told me when my girls get to be adolescents, I might feel differently. But right now, I really like it because I think they are a population that gets, I don't want to say brushed to the side, but I think that their problems get minimized a lot. So it's hard for adults maybe to remember what that was like. A lot of the girls, like we were talking about before, you turn the mic on, just, they're told that it's just girl drama. They won't have to worry about this once they leave high school. Just get through high school and this will be over. And recognizing that these are very real things for them that are going on in their lives now, that even though maybe as an adult, it's easy to like, oh, that's not going to matter in 20 years, but it matters to them now. Being that person that validates that for them or listens and tries to help them manage that or help them through that is an honor for me because they don't get that in many places. And then also just the fact that it doesn't really end after high school, that women and
spoiler alert.
Right, that it's getting better with this, that there's a lot of attention now on equality and just women's rights or women being able to speak up and have a voice, and there's this huge push and this huge movement. And at the same time that these have been ways of being since the beginning of time. And so it's more than just acknowledging that this is a problem. It's undoing those unconscious ways of being that a lot of people don't even recognize that we're doing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And, I guess an example, how I said I was doing the focus groups, one of the things that the girls brought up, I didn't even think of, was that, so this particular group were big athletes, big sports players. They brought up that when the high school, you think about what high school kids do on the weekends, and a lot of that is going to sports games, the Friday night game, whether that's football or basketball, whatever it is. And who always plays on Friday nights? Boys, the boys teams, and the girls teams get to play on Tuesdays or Wednesdays when kids aren't going to games. They're doing their homework or they're working their job or whatever it is. And where these girls are feeling that and they're noticing that and they feel frustrated because they're saying, here is our school who says, we're so progressive, or we're so, about equality and doing all of these things. Look how great we are. And yet we're continuing to do these things that, because that's how it's always been done, that don't feel right to these girls. And they were saying, we don't feel like though we can say anything. So when I was talking to them about the idea of Free to Be and what that could be for them, or what they would want something like that to be for them, that confidence or that empowerment inside of them to be able to say, hey, there's a lot of great progress being made, or people are speaking up, but there's still a lot of stuff that we need to change. And that was one of the things, even me, who I feel like I'm constantly thinking about women's rights or equality, or just what's going to be good. I have 2 daughters, what's going to be good as they grow up in this world, and wouldn't have even thought anything of, well, the boys play on Fridays and the girls play on Tuesdays. So
I think that's a space a lot of people live in now, is they think, well, things have gotten great. I mean, everything's equal across the board. There's not things happening out in the middle of the street that are horrific that could have happened 100 years ago and everybody would have turned a blind eye. So isn't the game over? Don't we have equality? There's a fine line there, because as you mentioned about the sporting events, it's not malicious.
Right.
The school's not intentionally thinking about this, but it's still a value message being sent to half of the student population that your sporting event isn't as important.
Right.
And it's not being done with hatred or malintent. It's just occurring, and nobody has shined a spotlight on it to change it yet.
Right.
And this is still feeding into young adults' perceptions. Now, some people will say, okay, well, maybe these adolescents are overreacting.
Right.
And we say in intro psych that, yes, your frontal lobe, your cognitive processing does not finish developing until about your mid-20s. Sure. But we can't undervalue that perception to them in that moment while they're going through puberty and one of the most difficult social times in life, aka middle and high school. Those perceptions still matter, even if they may not, even if they were overweighted in their severity.
Right. Absolutely. And it's just about undoing all of those things. And it's a long process. And I think we're moving in the right direction for sure. And Free to Be, I don't want it to be this girls versus boys. I think the ideas behind it, or just that belief that everybody should work on themselves and get to that place of growing so that they can accept and love who they are. Absolutely important for boys also. But I'm a female, and I feel like me starting this kind of thing, being able to do that for girls, and if it happens to trickle over to the boys, or if a male influence comes into this as somebody who would want to do that, and if there's the need, then absolutely it could turn into that, because there's lots of great men out there doing lots of great things for women. So
yeah, to any naysayers, just because someone does a charity to support this group of people, nobody comes along and says, whoa,
right,
you didn't start a nonprofit for this group over here. We celebrate, thank you for thinking of this section of our community. And for some reason around gender, some people are very quick to say, well, now hold on a minute. What about my side? And so, yes. I hope none of our listeners are tearing down the idea that if you feel so bold out there, listener, start a Free to Be, or, a similar idea
something
for young
boys.
men in the area. One thing I wanted to ask you is, for Free to Be, what exactly are the resources available? Like, how will young girls or parents of young girls, how will they find you and your stuff online?
So like I said, we're just starting second event, next week. Right now I'm doing it by word of mouth. So I am telling anybody who will listen, this is what I'm doing. So please tell any teen girl that you think could benefit or would enjoy something like this. We're starting with high school, with the idea that they are more easily able, a lot of them drive or have friends who drive. So, hey, let's do this together. Less dependent on parents being able to take them. Definitely had parents drop their girls off at the first one. Also, middle school, it's so needed. I think, though, it's better for this to become something good at the high school age and then trickle down to younger siblings or word of mouth that way. And then hopefully the girls take it with them to college. So I was thinking start in the middle and have it spread out. Doing things like this, I reached out to you. I truly am just wanting to talk to anybody and everybody who will listen because I believe in it so strongly and I think it's important. And I think once girls get to experience that and see what it's all about, they'll tell their friends and it'll just go that way. But we do have Instagram.
There it is.
Yes, Free to Be Movement on Instagram. So just trying to build that up and get exposure that way also.
There are online resources as well on your website.
So the website is being created. That is going to be huge. And so it wasn't something that I was just going to throw together and kind of put it out there just to have it. The website is going to have an option for membership. It's going to have all kinds of resources for the girls where they actually get to make their own profile. It's going to be its own online community, essentially. And so they'll have access to different kinds of workshops on all kinds of different topics, relationships, friendships, self-care, just you name it. So there'll be a different theme every month. There'll be interviews with young women who are free to be themselves and live in the mission in their lives. There's going to be live interactive where I'll get on or I'll be interviewing somebody, but the girls will be able to log in and see that live, ask questions. So the website is huge. We're hoping, when I keep saying we, but my husband is, speaking of men who are very supportive of women and all of that. He's been phenomenal in helping me with this and getting this going. And so he's helping me with the website. And so we're hoping that that'll be good to go by the summer, July, August.
Okay, very nice. Mm-hmm. So I actually did not know that you were hosting in-person sessions. Mm-hmm. So that's new for me to hear.
Yeah.
During the recording. So are those every week? And
still trying to figure that out as far as what our population would want. They'll be recorded, so if people couldn't hop on live, they would be able to go back and watch.
That's powerful.
Right.
Because a lot of girls may not be able to make it for rides, or maybe they have soccer practice, or they have some event, like a vacation they really want to go, and they can tune in and they find that on the website eventually? Yeah,
so that would be on the website where they would be able to access that and go back through and watch old ones. Maybe they, join at a later date, but all of those will be archived. And that's also part of why pushing it out to summer, because we want to get lots of content to have on there, so that girls aren't logging in and there's one thing to look at or one thing to read.
And how do you hope to, I don't even know if you've reached this point, but drive girls to the website when we're very Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, and Twitter focused?
Right. The events. So really the focus with the events is that it's an experience. And so, I thought about how do I want them to feel when they leave an event? And I want them to feel connected. I want them to feel empowered. I want them to feel committed to taking care of themselves. And I want them to feel committed to treating other people kindly and just feeling inspired and good. And I think with a lot of personal development things, even for adults, if you've ever attended something like that, there's, for me, going and, this is awesome. This is so great. I feel really good. And that feeling only lasts so long. As I've gotten older and as I've learned, and also part of Free to Be, this is a continuous, it's not about going to one thing and then you're good.
It's like brushing your teeth.
Right.
Or making the bed.
Every day, that this is something that you consciously have to be working on every single day. And so that's the hope of they get this experience at these events, and then being able to, okay, well, how do I keep this going? How do I hold myself accountable to these things that I said that I wanted to do for myself, for the kind of person that I want to be out in the world and with other people. And that's where the website comes in, that being able to connect to something every day if they want, or, once a week, whatever it is that they feel that they're getting, that continued, they don't lose that feeling then after being at a live event.
Have you found it difficult thus far? Because you are serving a population that a lot of times people will find out through you by proxy or vicariously through parents or like aunts, uncles, and family members or friends. Like, oh, I don't know that, maybe I'm a high school girl or a high school boy and I don't really find Free to be for me, but maybe my friend.
Yeah.
Do you find this difficult to reach people through oftentimes not the person you intended?
However they come to me is fine. And I don't have any expectation that this is going to be for everyone. It's not. And I think being a therapist also, and just having that, all the clients that come and sit on my couch, they might be presenting the same symptoms, but there's not a one size fits all. It's really about getting to know each individual and finding what's going to work best for them. And so I think with things like this, people working on themselves, doing that kind of personal development stuff, we're all going to connect with different people or different ideas. And so yeah, maybe it's not for them, but they're thinking, my friend so-and-so would love this. Great. Pass it on to your friend. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, some people may be sitting here thinking, this sounds like therapy outside of your therapist practice. But I read online, you draw a succinct distinction that this is not therapy.
Right.
How is that?
Not therapy. Well, a big part of that is liability. So, it's not therapy. I'm obviously a therapist at heart. Lots of personal development, all of the personal development out there. I will read fantastic books, and in my mind, I'm thinking it's like therapy. But with that, so there's always going to be that underlying, it's just who I am. And a lot of the ideas as far as working on self-esteem and self-concept and empowering, those are the same things that we work on in therapy. But I don't ever want somebody to think that this is a replacement for therapy, that there are much deeper issues to be worked on, a much different level of support that happens in a therapeutic relationship, that if somebody is really struggling and is really needing individual counseling, I wouldn't want parent or a girl to, well, she's a therapist and she's doing this, and so I'm just going to send them to this, or I'm just going to go to this and think that that's good. That therapy just serves like a be-all? Yeah.
End-all solution?
Right. I think that there are times that you need to work one-on-one with someone.
Now, how do you feel for parents who may be listening to this or have thought about this, or they hear Free to Be and they almost feel guilt? Because I am not a parent yet, but I can place myself in the situation where I feel like the second I think my daughter should see a therapist or would want to go to a Free to Be meeting, that in essence I haven't done my job. Do you feel like parents should be drawing this line in their heads?
No,
like how do we navigate that? Right?
No, you're right.
It's complex.
And parent guilt is very real. I am a parent, and that I think parents being able to do, if it's taking their child to therapy and saying, hey, we need help, that's being a good parent. Recognizing that Free to Be can help their daughter build community, can help their daughter feel better about themselves and who they are, can help their daughter be more accepting of others. I mean, that's being a good parent of seeking those kinds of things out and providing those kinds of opportunities, or at least being able to say, hey, I heard about this thing. Is that something that you would be interested in? Would you want me to take you to that? That in no way is that a sign that parents are failing. It's more of, I found this for you. I am a therapist. This is what I do. And I would happily send my girls to counseling if that's what they needed, because that's what they're going to need to get through whatever they might be going through. And I sent my 9-year-old to a big event around goal setting and girl power and all of that. And she loved it. And so not putting that expectation on ourselves as parents that we have to do and be everything for our kids, because we can't. I mean, that's impossible, and they need to have those different experiences. And so if somebody's listening to this and thinking, oh, this is something my daughter really needs, that's not a sign of failure on their part at all. Their daughter maybe needs this because lots of girls need this, just because of how girls think and feel about themselves and the comparison game, just all of that stuff that's beyond our control.
I think that's huge for people to hear. And I also think there's an unfortunate stigma in society, not only about mental health, but just asking for help in public, or like going to an event like this. For some reason, I think there's a stigma around it, like it shows weakness that I might want to be supported in this fashion. But I'm kind of the opinion that all of us could use a little bit more connection to some sort of community to make us feel like in the darkest times when the chips are down, that things are going to be okay.
Right.
And that we should trust ourselves. And here are some things that you can use next time that things are difficult. And that's part of why I started this podcast, right?
Yeah.
Is to give people in Northern Colorado a space where they can hear from other people who live right around them.
Right.
That they may never have met otherwise.
Yes. And a big study, I wish I remembered who did it. A big study just came out. It was around loneliness and how loneliness is reaching an epidemic level. And the population that reports most feeling lonely are adolescents to young 20s. And it's an issue. And it's not, people automatically blame social media and technology, and they didn't find any difference between the kids who were constantly engaged in electronics and those who weren't. They are feeling lonely and disconnected. And that's a huge part of Free to Be. It's building community. And it's fun. I'm doing it in a fun way. So it's not like they're coming. I don't want them to feel like they're coming to therapy. This is, you're going and you're doing some sort of fun activity. You're connecting with other girls and you're working on yourself. Wins all around. So
placing a huge charge on face-to-face. I think it's what we need.
Yeah.
And I'm not blaming Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, but I just think there's some disconnect occurring that scares me, honestly. When in 2019, I can be more connected with you than I could have ever been before.
Right.
I can have friends and I had a close friend move to Japan recently. I can FaceTime him now. 20 years ago, that would have been a letter.
Right.
And that's it. So we can connect with people easier. And how is it that on average, our levels of happiness are going down in the United States? Markers of loneliness are going up. And we're having... The last 3 years, the CDC just published that the last 3 years is the first time in forever that the United States has seen a decline in the average lifespan because of suicide and substance overdose. And this is just an issue, right? And it's not some textbook problem that we can all like sit about, ruminate, and philosophize about. It's happening to people that we know.
Yeah.
Just talked about it this morning in my intro psych class, and just... The idea of Free to Be is more than just seeking help, but it's getting face-to-face with people in our neighborhoods, in our community, and just finding ways that you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And you don't know how things could be better for you as an adolescent who's struggling in this chaotic, weird 21st century society.
Yes.
Where robots are on the rise.
I know, yes.
Many people have smartphones by the age of 10.
Yeah.
I think there are more questions for our human psyche in the next decade than there are answers.
Yeah. Just being able to sit in front of somebody and make eye contact and be able to talk and be in person. There's a feeling that you get, and just that need for connection that we all have. And I think you achieve that on a deeper level when you're with somebody, not just staring at a screen.
I have people who are possible guests for the show who challenge me and say, well, can't we just do this recording virtually? And I'll just Skype in, and I say, I'm sorry, but it doesn't align with what we believe for this podcast. And so I meet with every guest in person. If they're not willing to be, then they can be featured on other podcasts, and that's great. But I need, for the purpose of this podcast, to meet people in person. And when we interact with someone online and we hook you up to a brain scanner, we don't see nearly either the same type or the level of brain activity that we see when you sit down and engage with a person. And they even have done studies where it was the same exact person. Yeah. When you see them in person, your brain is going off like the 4th of July. Yeah. But when we're texting them, it's like basement level brain activity. And so there's just huge power in bringing these adolescent girls together underneath the roof of Free to Be.
Yeah, thank you.
So if we have listeners out there who are curious, like, how the heck could I help? Like what can I do? What charge would you give people who hear this podcast?
If anybody's interested in getting involved, it is a nonprofit. We're waiting for that official status. It is a nonprofit. The goal is for all the events to be very low cost. We want most of them to be free. So once we have that official nonprofit status, we'll be doing a Kickstarter or GoFundMe, whatever that is that nonprofits do.
The Facebook Drive,
right? Yeah.
So people ask for things for their birthday.
So we'll be looking for donations and anything that people want to do to help. I've had people reach out and say they want to be involved in events and just offering their services, that they'll be there for free. So, hey, I'll come and teach yoga, or I'll come and do massages. So anybody that would have services to offer for an event, you can find. So right now we don't have the website, but to register for events, if anybody wants to do that, it's the same. We just change it every month, the event every month, but it's freetobemovement.org. And that's how you register for events. And then follow us on Instagram, because I'll post everything there as far as events that are coming up or things that are going on, that kind of thing.
If people are listening and they're curious, like they know someone, but they don't know how to broach that subject with them, what advice would you give? And how could we bring this up to young girls we feel like would love Free to Be, but we don't know how to start that conversation?
People don't come because there's something wrong with them. And I think that's, when you were talking about the stigma, even, and more so going to therapy, like, oh, there must be something wrong with me. And that's not it at all. And just taking this separate from therapy, that truly Free to Be, it's fun. There's a huge benefit to it. And it's self-growth and working on themselves. But so instead of saying, oh, I don't think you have confidence, so go to this event, it's more of, look, this looks fun. They're doing,
try it once.
Yeah, just try it and see what you like it, how you like it, because it's a fun activity. It's set up and we're doing it in hopefully fun spaces. And so it's not anything that I think somebody would be embarrassed to say that they're going to. It's more of that, oh, hey, this looks fun. Do you want to come with me? Or if it's a parent introducing it to their child, hey, this looks fun. Do you want me to drop you off, or do you want to go? Grab your friends. I'll take all of you, that kind of thing. That it's about having fun and connecting, not there's something wrong with you, so you need to go to this.
Yeah, you could bring people along.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Jamie, I wish you all the luck. I hope this blows up. I hope people reach out to you. I hope we get some other chapters started, maybe from listeners of the show that you've empowered. Might be able to reach out to some people myself. So thank you very much. And I hope this brings some joy and better futures for people in our neighborhoods.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks. If you enjoy The More You Know Co., please check out our other episodes. We've had such a variety of interesting and awesome people, you never know what you're going to find. I've been in awe and wonder going on this journey around northern Colorado. Read the episode descriptions, take a shot, and discover our NoCo community. Trevor Fossey, always putting in the time to edit and mix these episodes. Thank you so much for your dedication and hard work. Russell Isaac Long, our guest on episode 67 of the show, makes all our music here at the NoCo. Thank you, good sir. We are on Facebook and Instagram if you're interested in staying connected with us, or just to see bonus visual content in addition to this very audio-driven podcast experience. We will be back soon with another conversation, exploring and connecting the people who make up Northern Colorado. Until next time, peace!